Hello and welcome to the Omdia CES 2026 panel, Is the Car of the Future Just Another Connected Device? Connected? Consumer device. Also connected. I'm Edward Wilford, Senior Research Director at Omdia for Automotive, and I'm excited to be the moderator for today's discussion. Think about what it was like the last time you got behind the driver's seat of a car that knew nothing about you, that was unaware of your preferences, that had access to no personal data, and that you could not interact with. The lines between our cars and our consumer devices, between our cars and our lives, are blurring at an unprecedented pace. And this is part of a fundamental transformation. Cars are no longer just mechanical marvels. They're becoming rolling computers, AI-powered assistants, and integral nodes in our connected lives. They're learning our preferences, anticipating our needs, and seamlessly integrating with our smart homes and digital ecosystems. But this shift raises questions. Are automakers ready to compete with tech giants? How do we balance personalization with privacy? What role does artificial intelligence play? Is it merely a tool, or is it actively driving this consumer device convergence? And perhaps most importantly, what are the obstacles and catalysts that will determine whether this transformation accelerates or stalls? Today, we have an exceptional panel of experts who will dive deep into these questions. I'd like to take a brief moment to ask each of our 5 panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Sharmista.
Hey everyone, I'm Sharmista Roy, Director of Software and Data Engineering at Ford Motor Company.
Hi, I'm Mark Granger. I'm the Vice President of the Snapdragon Digital Cockpit at Qualcomm.
Hello everyone, I am Maite Bezerra. I'm a Senior Principal Analyst at Omdia, focusing on software-defined vehicles and digital mobility.
Hello everybody, Stefano Marzani here. I lead emerging technology strategy for Amazon Web Services, Automotive and Manufacturing.
Hello everyone, I'm Jason Lowe, Research Director, Connected Life under Omdia. Thank you.
Thank you. So, let's dive right into this. Is the car of the future just another consumer device? What is driving this perception or the reality that cars are becoming more consumer-like? And how does this transformation impact the way people interact with their vehicles? And Mark, I'd like to go to you on that one first.
Well, sure. So, is it becoming a consumer device? Well, I would say that the expectations are getting higher and higher for the experience inside the car to be very consumer-like, right? So it's very familiar, you feel comfortable with it, it's second nature, and it knows a bit about you. Now, at the same time, it still needs to play by the games of safety, security, and whatnot that you want in your automobile, right? So it's really blending the two worlds together, both from use case and AI assistance in the vehicle, but also, trying to shorten development times and whatnot. So that's my take.
Okay. Maite, how about your perspective on this?
Well, I'm aligned with Mark. I think because the vehicle now has an operating system that is similar to the operating systems we have in cell phones, because it has functionalities that are similar to functionalities in consumer device, we get this perspective that the vehicle is a consumer device. But we shouldn't treat it solely as a consumer device, mostly the HMI part of it, because you do have to have functional safety in it. You need to have engineering parts in it. Your car needs to be safe, right? It's a mission-critical device at the end of the day. So when we think about the experience, yes, it's getting consumer-like, but it's still not a consumer device.
Okay. Stefano, something to add?
Yeah, of course, I'm totally aligned.
Yeah.
So the car is not a consumer device per se.
Okay.
So consumer devices, smartphones, they have one microprocessor. How many do you have in a car? Tens. There's one operating system in a phone. How many operating systems we have in a car? Many. In cars, we have an hypervisor as well to separate the mission-critical kind of part, functional safety related, to the more infotainment, consumer part, right? So the object is evidently structurally different from the architecture perspective, but definitely the expectations are there. Expectation mean value. I don't think that car OEMs are just, and I'd be interested to know for perspective on that, but make money out just selling cars.
Right.
So probably you need to offer more content, how you reach and create value out of this expectation. It's extremely relevant and economically imperative to me.
So Shamista, how would you're representing an OEM, how would you answer?
Yeah, so very interesting thoughts, I think, from both the sides. What I would say is very divided, yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is because of the interpretation of this decoupling that's happening in the recent software-defined vehicle industry from the hardware and the software. Earlier, 15 years back, when we all bought a car, it was just the hardware. 15 years, you drive your car, you drive it, it's safe, that's it, you were happy. But now, it is becoming or trending more so towards the consumer side because of the software and the infotainment feature that exists in your car. The life cycle of a change within the car, the module, like Stefano was saying, it is much like a phone, right? We hold the phones in our hands. We want the software updates to come quickly. We want it to come in a secure way. And that is exactly how we envision our car of the future to be. So the life cycle is getting decoupled from a 15-year hardware device to a 1-year smaller life cycle of getting the OTA updates very seamlessly in a very secure way. You don't want to drive your car to a dealership. You want it to come to you and see the changes live. So yes and no, it is becoming a consumer device more so lately.
Okay. Jason, team consumer, I want to hear you arguing with everyone.
Yes, I think I'm going to go against everyone here. Yes. Consumers in China will tell you that a car is like a device, especially when you look at the cars getting connected. They wanted to look for the content they are very familiar with, the apps, the services on their car, right? So, and also they expect things to be updated regularly too. So that's the baseline of the expectations. And if you see nowadays people going into the showroom, right? Of course, yes, the styling is still important, but they look at the specifications in the car, not just the screen size itself, but also the type of driving capabilities, the nice to have inside the car, and so on. Yeah, and we do see automakers trying to reimagine how cars would be like when they are driving and when they are stationary. So that's why we have the idea of a third space, right? Car makers trying to build different user scenarios, trying to cater to different consumers when they have different needs.
Okay. So we can all agree to some extent that there is a transformation happening. How far it goes and what the precise direction is, I think, is up for some debate and some discussion. But how is the automotive industry reacting to this? And how should they react to this? How should they respond? What is the greatest opportunity for innovation inside this consumer space? Shamista, let's start with you on that.
Yeah, so I think I'll lean a little bit on what Stefano just said regarding the architecture and the operating system, right? The biggest challenge, I think, in the industry, or the automotive industry, and the OEMs face right now is how do we there are multiple small ECUs, consider 100 small brains of the car, right? And it's all segregated. When we bought a car, OEMs would essentially buy third-party software from lots of third-party suppliers, integrate all of those changes, and put it together in a car. We want our cars to get the updates quickly. We want our software developers to write code which is good in a Ford Motor Company's car and also goes in a tablet. We want them to be able to push this code for 15 years straight. How do we do that? We essentially do that with a zonal architecture. And is the car built good enough to support that zonal architecture? Do we have a cloud architecture with a provider that can sustain all of this? Do we have a network good enough that can sustain all of this? So for all of the OEMs, I think the biggest challenge is how do we build such an architecture that will take your car 15 years through the updates, the legacy systems that exist today, and 15 years later still be relevant and still be able to push code and updates so that you see the beautiful change happening in your car. Yeah.
Stefano, would you agree with that? Is it
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In fact, we call it the Frankenstein architecture. Honestly, that's the nickname of it. And to be very honest, it's not just a problem for a single OEM. This is a supply chain issue. Right? So OEM relies on different tiers, tier 1, component manufacturers, tier 2s, ISVs, and everything. That's the equation that needs to be solved, to be honest, and the big blocker in really innovating fast and producing these fast cycles. So I was saying that software-defined vehicles, that's the target that we need to reach. There's a nice research from Omdia about it, by the way, right? coming through the various stages and stuff. But it's a software-defined supply chain transformation that needs to happen. Because until the OEM can't regain control of the software that is developed in the way and put it efficiently in loops that are faster and under control, that won't change. So it's a kind of a complicated game, but that's the game that we need to play, first of all.
Maite, as our SDV expert, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think exactly what you're saying is this complexity, but I think this is leading to something great, because the challenge that automotive industry is facing is merging the consumer device with the engineering and mission critical device, right? And this is a challenge that hasn't been solved by anyone, because it's really difficult. I mean, a consumer device has a life cycle of 3 years, 5 years. A vehicle has a life cycle of 20 years. If your phone suddenly stops working, you can simply reset it. Now, if your ADAS stop working, I mean, this is
Can't turn the car off and on
That's
again.
a little bit of a...
Exactly. So what I've been fascinated is that the OEMs and the supply chain are now coming up with technologies that are giving us possibilities that we never thought before. Like we're discussing end-to-end systems, vehicles being able to think and act in a safe manner. It's something that opened the doors for other industries as well, right? Robotics, anything that you can think of. So it's difficult, it's challenging, but at the same time, really, really exciting.
It's sort of hearing people's remarks in that so much of it seems consumer-ish about the car. It seems to be going from a fixed and fragmented system into one that is neither. And the more that we approach a system that's sort of where the compute is, whether it's spread throughout the car, and it's not the way it came out of the manufacturing facility, the more that feels consumer-y to people, and maybe can offer a lot of the benefits of a consumer device. To what extent is the car's integration with other consumer devices like smartphones and smart homes sort of shaping this evolution? Jason, I'm going to go to you first on this.
So I think it all started out with the EV upstarts, right? When they start to build their first EVs, they always feature a big screen for IVI, and now we call them digital cockpits and all, with all the bells and whistles, the features that we all want. And of course, smartphone mirroring is also one of the key feature sets of a lot of cars. But now we see quite a big change in terms of the players. The device makers are also joining the game. Right? So what they're bringing here is a lot of software expertise, focusing on trying to build this UI that is specifically tailored to their users, but also at the same time thinking about how it should be safe, should be engaging, and should come up with something fresh and new. Right? So that is very important. And of course, we're talking about currently L2 vehicles, and then we have all the assistive tools. And of course, in the future, L3, it'll be very, very different. And at the same time, when you have a vehicle parked, that's, again, it's a totally different scenario. So who else, I myself always, not always, but I take calls, conference call in the car, sometimes driving, not the best example. But imagine if my car is able to facilitate a call very well in the car. I will definitely do it rather than, finding a coffee place to do so. Of course. Yeah.
If I might, it's sort of interesting. I think there's a very unique opportunity in the automotive space as opposed to, for instance, with a cell phone, right? We all now, know how to manipulate with our fingers and type a message, open an app, do whatever. So it's a little unnatural to talk to your phone, with an AI agent and whatnot. But people don't really spend that much time in the car today. They're usually a bit frustrated when they have to go 3 menus down and. But given that we don't have this legacy in automotive for the user interface with the computer, this just opens it up for the digital assistants and to truly be interacting with your vehicle in a very natural way, being your friend and your assistant. So I think that's a real key advantage for automotive versus, versus the cell phones.
And to add to this, I think, again, we are seeing agentic AI really developing in automotive, right? Because how do you interact with your vehicle in a way that is natural and in a way that the vehicle, you can access functions from all of the systems within the vehicle, from all of the ECUs, but also from this external world, right? So it's, again, another technology that is really developing automotive.
And I couldn't agree more. And by the way, we have an example down here at the ground floor in our booth. For the first time, we are presenting a kind of a Alexa Plus through Alexa Custom Assistant in a digital cockpit with the here maps, here navigation maps, all integrated. And with an agent that is able to explain how the vehicle is performing. So for example, there's an example of a tire with an issue, and you can ask, what should I do? So should I stop? What should I do? Yep. And believe me, the experience is exciting. It's very natural. So I couldn't agree more with Mark. So it's kind of the next level you want to come there, right? So, but you see that there's a supply chain as well issue in there, because all these different vendors, how you bring them together. Right. If we rely on the old mindset in automotive that each of them needs to have a component in the car and everything, we need to work in a different way to integrate all of that, and we can talk about that.
Yeah. And also just wanted to add, of course, consumers will bring their own devices onto the car, right? That's a huge influence, actually. Sure. They want to see their apps flowing around, like the agents and the AI information. So cross-platform integration is really a key theme that we're looking for as well.
But even bringing your device and the connectedness we're speaking about with our cars and sort of the way we're interacting with them, it means a lot of data, right? And how can we manage it while also leveraging it? What are the challenges ensuring that this data is secure, right? And that we're not invading people's privacy unnecessarily, and ethically use it while also maximizing the cool things that we can do with it? Shamista, I'd like to speak to you on that first.
Yeah, for sure. So I think in the olden times, the concept was collect all the data we can get and just everything, all you can get, and that's great. But I think we're seeing a big pragmatic shift from there. Data, the most secure data is the data that you collect and process on the edge rather than you move it to the cloud, right? And it's very use case based. So pulling in from some of the examples that a few of my panelists talked here about, maybe like an agentic AI implementation. If there is a consumer, we want to learn about your routes and patterns and habits. That kind of data, we don't need to process it in the millisecond layer, right? We can collect all the data, process it on the cloud, build our models, and then send the update back to the consumer. But when there is something very urgent, maybe like there's a voice recognition that you're asking your car about, hey, how do I get from point A to point B? You need to process that in the millisecond, right? So the hardest challenge with the data as such becomes the latency. How quickly can you get your data on the wire? And how securely can you do that? So I think the biggest problem to solve is data segregation, data segmentation. So you segregate and segment the data based on the use case. And of course, not everything that comes from the car, we consider it secure. We have to follow the principles of zero trust architecture. We have to follow core cybersecurity principles when it comes to handling your consumer data, whether it is PII, whether it is pattern recognition and whatnot. So essentially, I mean, data is the crux and the foundation of everything that we do in today's day and age when it comes to AI, agentic AI, recognition, learning, the interactions that you have with your car, and the way to manage that, I think it's a beautiful science in itself.
Absolutely. Stefano, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to chime in on this. Since we have someone from AWS, please.
Yeah, of course. That's one of the reasons why AWS exists, by the way, so big time, right? So the fact that we have a global presence, obviously, and more than 140, if I remember correctly, certifications to make sure that the systems are secure, certified, and everything. So nobody is producing a car just thinking about selling it in a single market, of course. The car is naturally a global market, And where you deploy a fleet of cars in a different region, different country, different nation, you need to apply the rules, of course, of that specific nation and country. So that's why you need to have regionalized presence in terms of data centers, data collection, and treat it properly according to the local regulation. That's paramount, it's super important, super respectful for the consumers and the users, it needs to be done with the maximum accuracy. So, and that's super important, but it's another thing. Cloud vendors are specialized in that, to be honest, and that's their role, right? So to provide this kind of infrastructure that spans across continents and support this kind of data collection exercises. As AWS, we already have millions of vehicles connected through AWS technologies, vehicles that through cellular, for example, produce small payloads every day, but millions of them, or we manage autonomous vehicle fleets, so a small amount or number of vehicles that produce 8 terabytes per hour. So in any case, it's a hexabyte problem. So yeah, that's an important one. But and that's why cloud makes a lot of sense in these use cases, for sure.
If you think about it as a chipset guy, of course, I'm quite happy both ways, right?
Of course.
I'll sell you all the modem to get that data up and down, but I'll also sell you the edge AI on the cockpit or the ADAS solution that does allow you to do real-time edge processing without, for instance, some of the data privacy issues. Because you as a consumer may not want everyone to know that, oh, you go to the bar every Thursday at 5, whatever the example may be. So,
but I think one thing that's worth keeping in mind is that what happens on the edge today won't necessarily have room to take place on the edge in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. And I think we may be locating that compute somewhere differently. And it's worth considering that, you know, we have to plan for the long-term life cycle of this car. And we speak too often of things being, I'm not suggesting you're doing this, things being, oh, that's on the edge. Well, it doesn't die there, right? It's going to end up, it's going to have to go to the cloud. I think there is some, you know, some consideration, even with the stuff that's disposed of locally, of how we manage that data.
I think it'll be, for one thing, I hope everyone on the panel will agree. I mean, I believe that you will have hybrid AI, quote unquote, forever. You know, there is absolutely going to be a reason that you want to go up to the cloud. But I think, you know, there's also always going to be that necessity to have AI at the edge, right? Clearly, autonomous driving, you don't want to rely on your data connection, as good as it can be,
buffering,
you know, to steer your vehicle.
Sure,
right?
sure.
But you know, there's all sorts of economics and use case things that will evolve over the next 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a very different discussion in a year or even 6 months from now, as we all learn more about how this is evolving.
Actually, from a consumer standpoint, right, we actually see a lot of friction going on in terms of how they want to make some of the app experience more seamless. Like, for example, you know, you might have a video recorded by the Sentry mode. You want to take it off the car into your phone. It's a really difficult process to do that. And also for information to flow in between the apps, you need to log in one by one just to ensure that the privacy settings are accordingly. So definitely there are a lot of ways where you can smooth that out for consumers. But yeah, that's what we see from the consumer standpoint.
So far, I've only tracked 4 specific references to AI, which is well below the quota for CES. So we're going to have to do an entire question just on AI. Are they going to take us off the stage? I'm sorry, it's not my choice. What role does AI play in shaping the car of the future? Is it a tool being leveraged, or is it driving the shift towards these connected, consumer-like vehicles? And how might agentic AI change the way cars interact with their users and the environment? My take. Can I go to you first on this?
Well, I was just going to say, I think the solution for all of this is obviously having flexible architectures in which you have intelligence, AI, at the edge, making the decision on where should this workload be processed. Is this workload mission critical? Do I need to have a response in milliseconds, or can I have a response in 3 seconds, or can it be in 5 minutes, right? So these should be running at the edge, this intelligence. And this intelligence also needs to connect with the cloud, right? So the idea in agentic AI makes it even better, because it's not just the workload, but also what functionality should I use, what application should I use, what language model should I use, right? We have so many models now. And what is the optimal solution? So we need to have, I believe that AI is going to become this layer that is controlling the vehicle in here and the cloud in here, but you have the AI really controlling the architecture and being this intelligent being making decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, technically we call it mixed critical orchestration, right? So that's why I'm wearing my Sophie socks, by the way.
I noticed.
Because it's very important. It's a problem that we started to solve 3-4 years ago, right? So creating this industry organization called Sophie, together with ARM, that's one of our strategic partners for that, where you execute depending on the level of criticality of a workload. That's a problem that we started to tackle 3-4 years ago. And we have a good approach for that, good references for it right now. We presented ways that we can execute completely on the edge some small language model with the critical functionality. Think about a very trivial one, user manual. User manual seems trivial, but it's an easy big case. It's functional safety. Hey, the light I'm seeing on the instrument cluster, is there something critical or not? Oh, it's nothing, and maybe after 2 miles your car burns down, right? So it's obviously very relevant, needs to be executed at the edge with some kind of checkpoints, controls, telemetry, to report anomalies in the usage of the function and stuff. Some others, you simply don't care. So, okay, it's tourist information. It's a big model. Do I need to put all the memory in the car just to run it? And the CPU power? No, maybe execute it in the cloud and they stream it. It's not available in the area? Okay, maybe we can do some trickery to make it available in another way. So it's totally different, but super important. I agree.
Mark, can I ask you to?
Well, I was going to go back to your original question. Is it a tool?
Yeah.
Or what is it, and how does agentic AI? I mean, on one hand, I think generative AI and AI in the cabin, it can be a tool, right? And I think Sharmista, that's a lot of what you do in your day-to-day in Ford is utilizing AI in the actual manufacturing process, right? So it is a tool in building and developing. Same thing with some of the development up in the AWS cloud, right? Very much a tool to get you to there. But then, agentic AI and physical AI. We got to say AI how many more times?
At least 17.
Anyways, when you really look at that can just bring so much together. And back to my example of this unique opportunity in automotive. Yeah. In a smartphone, you don't have all the context data about the world around you, what's going on in the environment in the car, where you were last week and where you're going the following week. And so you can really see how the AI can become very personalized towards you, and whatnot. But then agentic AI, you can also think of agents, for instance, running. We have our digital chassis, right? We've got our ride, which is the ADAS. We've got the cockpit. We've got our telematics, right? You can imagine an AI agent running on the telematics that's doing crash detection.
Yeah, sure.
And can actually take a picture of the cabin if it detects that there's been a crash. It can make an emergency call. All things that, it can be this distributed thing that is all accessible by that main AI agent. And so it's so exciting. It really is exciting.
It is.
Jason, from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, so first of all, ADAS wouldn't have existed without AI, of course. Now with more capable Gen AI, like VLMs and more powerful LLMs, the system will be able to tell what kind of hazards we have in front of the car, right? Even we'll be able to detect traffic police signs, for example, and then we're able to tell the car how to maneuver, right? And I think what's most important right now nowadays is the explainability of the decision being made by the car. Why is it choosing this rather than that, right, over certain things? So that's one area of I see Gen AI being very critical for the vehicles. And also, if you look at the future of L3, level 3 vehicles, right, where now not just the passengers, but the driver is being freed out of the driving scenario. So AI agents would need to be able to complete tasks, not just being a tool or just being manual. Yeah. So I think from a consumer standpoint, nowadays they are very familiar with their agents on the phone. So they would ask their agent on the phone to do things for the car. Right? This kind of interoperability, this kind of environment after when the cars are much more autonomous is something that we all need to think about.
Excellent. Shamista.
Yeah, so I thank you so much, Mark, for that plug-in. But so for me, from an AI perspective, it's not just the interaction that you're having with the car. It's essentially embedded in the whole manufacturing process. Coming from an OEM, in Ford, every aspect of building a car and how a car is built, we try to bring in AI from. It's woven into our ecosystem right now. As a software engineer, I'm sure a lot of you use co-pilots to write code. And that's just the bare skin and bones, how we manufacture cars, how we collect the data, what we do with the data, how we build the models, how can we make our manufacturing process more efficient, how can we increase our throughput, how can we decrease our quality costs. Everything can be done through AI. Everything can be optimized through AI. So AI is not just, agentic AI is just one implementation that you can see and have with your car and be really interactive. But coming from an OEM, AI is everywhere. AI is from your keyboards, from how you write your code, to how you build the car, to how you see your car, to how the finished product is interacting with you. It's embedded in our entire ecosystem.
It's been great hearing AI used to solve specific problems. And I think if I ever have a criticism of AI, and I do, it's that it's far too often used to solve the problem of we don't know how to do this now, but we need to have it done in 3 years' time. And sort of AI is invoked as this sort of deity that's somehow presumably going to fix everything before the deadline comes crashing down upon us. So I'm pleased to hear AI being used to solve problems. And I think in the future we won't actually be talking about AI because it'll be like connectivity, where it's just such an ingrained part of all of our experiences that it's just the intelligence is there, the compute is there, and it's happening invisibly. Like you don't see color TV on a sign for hotels anymore because it's just table stakes, isn't it? AI is going to be table stakes. Mm-hmm. So looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest obstacle or the biggest catalyst in the convergence of cars and consumer devices? Is it something that's going to continue? And if so, what could stop it? What could speed it along? Jason, let's go first to you.
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, the market is trying to provide something of more of a variety for different users. So that's really great. But what I'm actually worried about is some of the automakers are trying too hard to make something that is too flashy, that they try to attract consumer attention, that they forget or they kind of, how do I say, I would say ignored, but overlook certain aspects that are important. And then something bad happens, and then the regulatory things will come and catch on to it. Right. So that's something that I might think is a risk for what's going to happen. But the good thing is, when things do happen, the industry do react pretty quickly. Yes.
Shamista.
Yeah, so like I said in the beginning of the session, I think the biggest challenge that lies ahead of us is how can we decouple? How can we decouple from the hardware and the software? To bring it all in together, ultimately, car is becoming a consumer device of the future. You will buy a Ford today, just because I'm from Ford, and you want your Ford to still live and breathe these same software updates 15 years later. And how do we make that happen? A lot of our architecture is maybe like the other OEMs have legacy hardware, and how can we make our architecture zonal enough, centralized enough, so that when a developer is writing code for a Ford, it is equivalent to writing code for a tablet. It is equivalent to writing code for anything else. So your architecture has to be centralized enough. It has to be, lot of the issues around the software world today are not having standardized APIs, not having standardized operating systems, right? So how do we make sure the standardization process is synchronous across a Tesla, across a Ford, across any other car that's pushing through the software updates. So all in all, I would say the biggest hurdle is to come up with the centralization. Only then the convergence can shift forward and sustain your car through the 15 years of the consumer updates that people want to see.
That's going to take a lot of agreement among OEMs, among the tiers, among the semiconductor firms, among the cloud firms. We're all going to have to get everyone around a big table.
For sure,
and make them all agree on some stuff.
It always takes an ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the SDV transition has been completed, to be very honest, going to that point. So SDV is a precondition to get to all of that, right? So while I agree with Mark, it's so exciting. Might you say that the car will becoming an agentic product, right, in your research, and that will enable a digital lifestyle for people. So that's the exciting part. That's surely the catalyst of that. But we are in the middle of the process to get there. So we need to complete this software-defined transformation at the supply chain level, not just an OEM level. And that needs to be happen very fast. And that's the problem, in my opinion, right? So it's time. It's not paradoxically technology. We think we have the technological means to do that. The problem is change management. The problem is to make it fast. I tell you, we are seeing some results that are stunning, applying agentic as tools. Right. We have customers that produce 60% more tests in a day. 60%, okay, applying agents. We see embedded processes improving performance by 20%. Embedded processes, 20% in 4 hours of work. We see other customers releasing features from 2 weeks to 4 hours in production. Right? If we're not doing that, somebody is doing that. So there's a time issue here. This is not a revolution that can wait. And it can happen in 2 phases, SDV and the AI-defined vehicles next. Right? So, and I think time is really a critical element in doing this. I hope that we all agree. It's important to speak AI because it's the most disruptive technology I encountered in my career. Yeah. And the nature of disruptive technologies is that they disrupt for sure.
Sure. Well, I mean, so no company is more consumer and automotive than Qualcomm. Can you give us your perspective on this?
Well, part of your question was what's some of the opportunity or whatnot, and we're talking about timelines and some of the challenges there. I mean, I think the way I see some of this playing out, China has been very fast in moving, and I think in many cases, a lot of the new EV players have a nice thing because they don't really have legacy electrical architectures and whatnot, so they already have a very zonal thing, and they have the so-called China speed, right? And they get it out very quickly. And I think what we're going to see over the next 5 years is there'll be a show of force in terms of what you can do with AI out of the China OEMs. And of course, it's already a big pull from Chinese consumers, not as much rest of world. But I think once that becomes prevalent in China and enough people from rest of world experience it, you're going to see this massive pull for AI in the vehicle for every region in the world. And I think that's one of the big opportunities is to see how quickly the rest of the world can jump on what is pioneered in China.
Yeah, get that genie out of the bottle and then just sort of see how the rest of the world reacts to it. Maite?
Well, to complement what has been said already, I think one of the challenges we have now is bringing all this AI and all of these opportunities we said to organizations, right? What you can do with your vehicle and what you can achieve with AI in your vehicle is directly related to how much you have transitioned into software-defined principles within your organization. And we're seeing that today, the organizational processes is the main barrier. As Stefano said, the technology is there, right? But how do you implement it? How do you make use of it? How do you deploy new functionalities quicker to the vehicles is something that we're still working. And business models. I mean, the business models of vehicle will change because it's becoming a completely different product, and we need to find out what would that be.
Absolutely. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank you, all the panelists, so much for joining us. This has been really interesting. And again, thank you, the audience, for being here with us today. It's been fantastic. Have a great rest of your show, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.